Michael Scott looked. "I have brought for you a horse that will teach you a lesson." "Well, I do not like it," said the king of all Paris. "I do not like the horse." "Well, please your majesty, please let my black horse stamp its feet once and twice and 3 times. "You can do whatever you want," said the king of Paris. Michael Scott looked hard and deep into the dark eyes of this black horse. It raised its hooves, and once and twice and 3 times it brought them down upon the ground, and every bell in every belfry inside of all of Paris shook and tolled. The King of France was not particularly bothered by this. Michael Scott looked at him again. "Your Majesty, would you like me to let my horse stamp its hooves another 3 times?" "I do not care," said the king of all Paris. But this time, this horse raised its hooves once and twice and 3 times, and 2 of the great towers at the front of that palace in Paris were shaken off. The King of France fell to his knees. "Just tell me what it is that you want." Oh, soon enough he knew that he had to stop the pirates from sinking those Scottish ships. And now Michael Scott was returning to his home, and he was going to be stopping in Morpeth. And when the people of Morpeth had found out that Michael Scott, the great wizard, was going to be staying inside of their town, they were very excited. When they'd heard all of the tales of what Michael Scott could do, they thought of what he could do for them. A man spoke up. "The great city of Newcastle has a great river, the Tyne, that runs through the middle of it, and all of the schooners and ships can come right to the very middle of the town. And if we had a river like that, then we would become a much more prosperous town, just like Newcastle upon Tyne. I think that when we have Michael Scott stay inside of our town, we should ask him to bring the sea to Morpeth. Then we could have a tide at Morpeth. We could have all of the moorings that we could ever want in this world instead of a small river, the Wansbeck. I think that we should ask him to bring the sea to Morpeth." Michael Scott, when he heard this entreaty, he thought about it. "It is indeed something that I can do. But if I do it for you, you must understand that the runic magic that I will use will only work once. And tomorrow morning, you must bring to me the fastest runner in all of this town. And you must meet me by the mouth of the Wansbeck by the North Sea." There was one boy, Thomas Cresswell was his name. He was the fastest runner in all of that place. No one could keep up with him. They did not know what the task would be that Michael Scott would set him, but he was ready for it. He had run on the fells. He was a shepherd, strong in his arm and in his mind and in his legs. And so they went to the shore where the North Sea meets the Wansbeck. So down to the sea they went, Thomas Cresswell and all of the men of Morpeth, and there was Michael Scott, and he laid a hex upon Thomas Cresswell's shoulders and told him this, that it would work only once, that he would need, once the tide had reached its height, he would need to run by the side of the Wansbeck's shores, and he would need to run all of the way to Morpeth, but he must never turn around, for the water would recede to the shore. As soon as the tide had reached its height, Thomas Cresswell started to trot, but he could hear a noise behind him. It was the sound of the sea elves and the water imps as they were screaming and yelling, for they did not want to have to do extra work to bring the sea all of the way to Morpeth. So he ran faster, as fast as his legs would take him, for Thomas Cresswell, strong in his head and his heart and his legs, he still ran. His heart beat in his chest like a drum. He ran so hard and so fast, and he did not want to turn around, but the screaming became so terrible that it was only as he came close to Morpeth, so close that he could almost smell the town, that he started to feel frightened, so frightened that he could barely breathe, and still he ran. And on he ran, always with the sounds of the water imps and the elves behind him. He was frightened, the water was cascading at his back. He knew that he was not supposed to turn around, and still he heard them screaming, laughing at him. And it was when he came to Bothell that in that place he could not stop himself, and for a brief moment he turned around and looked. And it was then that all he could hear in that place was the laughing of the water sprites and the imps, for they knew that they had tricked him. And the sea would never travel that way, all of the way where the Wansbeck had once been. The sea would never come to that place, and the tide would never be heard in Morpeth.